If you think the latest episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is better than any episode of Game of Thrones, then you haven't been watching with any context. Because what most people call the worst of Game of Thrones still nailed character logic and plot momentum far better than this train wreck masquerading the storytelling. Now, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and when I saw that people were suggesting that episode 5 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was better than any episode of Game of Thrones, that triggered me. That triggered me because this is my favorite show of all time. I'm totally immersed in this world. And to say something like that is not only demeaning, but it's quite frankly just silly. Like, it was a good episode. Episode 5 was a good episode. It had action, it had drama, it had pretty solid storytelling, but so does every single episode of Game of Thrones, the OG show. This episode right here, the Battle of the Bastards. This show had to me is the best, the most satisfying episode in the entire series. And here's why. John left the night. He was brought back from the dead. He left the Night's Watch, and this was his moment to avenge his sister Sansa. You know, their backs were against the wall. They're pinned down. They're about to lose, and this time I don't think John was going to be brought back. And when he Sansa brought the army down to help them and save them, like that was the one of the best moments in the history of the show. And then seeing John emerge from the bodies and everything, man, that was storytelling at its peak. And then to see him chase after Ramsey, the person that took his home, humiliated his sister, did all those insane things to her, and then took his home. He took his home and claimed it as his own. So to me, this was the most sad, and to see him get his revenge at the end was one of the most satisfying things. It's up there with Joffrey getting taken out. It's up there with that. So I said all that to say that in no way, shape, or form will be better than the OG show. It just is not happening. You might have the A Night of the Seven Kingdoms truthers out there that suggest that anything is possible and the show is going places that the OG show didn't take us, yada, 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 yada. There's no replacing this. You can build upon the world, but there's no replacing this. What do you guys think? Was Sunday night's episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms the best episode in Game of Thrones history, or was it just a good episode? Let me know in the comments. I wanted to share Screen Rant's top 20 episodes because they're more or less aligned with mine. Okay, so you got Mother's Mercy. That's when uh, Cersei was walked through the town naked, and all the common folk were throwing poop and all that stuff on her. So that episode was pretty intense. The opening episode with Ned taking out the deserter, that was a great episode. And then you have, what else happened in that episode? The introduction of the White Walkers. That was a good episode, man. And now his watch is ended. That's when Geo Momont was killed by the mutineers. Daenerys ordered Dragon to take out the slave leader, Crassinus. I think that was his name, Crassinus. So that was a very triumphant episode. This episode, when she went into the fire and birthed the dragons back into Westeros. That was a good episode. This was an amazing episode. All right. This dialogue from Tyrion, like I could watch that over and over and over. I wish I would have done that to that little monster myself. That's the episode that Tyrion was on trial for the murder of Joffrey. The Spoils of War. This was a great episode. When Jaime and the Lannister army had went to the Tyrells and robbed them, and yeah, man, that was a great episode too. The Lion and the Rose. That's when Joffrey was taken out. That was a very solid episode. The Bells. That's when Daenerys snapped. She unleashed fury on King's Landing. The Children. That was a good episode. Man, the list goes on and on. Look, that's when these two were fighting. Arguably two of the best fighters in Westeros history. That's when she made a name for herself and took out the Hound. The Door, Hold the Door. Golly, man, this episode was absolutely amazing. Never forget it. Never forget it. Holder sacrificed himself for Bran. And it was a very controversial episode because people were saying that Bran controlled him and made him hold the door and sacrifice himself. But, if he didn't, then Bran wouldn't have made it to becoming the three-eyed raven. Yeah, man, this could go on and on. This could go on and on. Battle of the Bastards is up there. The Mountain and the Viper, Baelor, number 6. That's when Ned is in. Kissed by Fire is a great episode. Man, look at this. Hard Home, when Jon first faced off with the White Walkers. God, Blackwater Bay, the Battle of Blackwater is amazing. Tyrion got his face slashed. The Red Wedding. There's no way that you're gonna tell me, like, we at this point we cared more about the characters that were losing their lives opposed to a character that we had essentially just met. The Winds of Winter. That was an amazing episode. Man, no way, man. Anyway, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Devon, catch you on the next one. Peace.